In this video, I'm going to show you a method for reading Paul's letters and tracing the logic. The logic of Paul's thought is very important. He was a logical, analytical thinker. He joined ideas in sequences, and we've got to be able to follow that logic. How does each idea join to the next? So I'm going to give you a method for this, and it really helps you to be able to understand what Paul's letters mean. We're going to do it in 5 steps. So we'll use Galatians as an example, Galatians chapter 1, verses 11 to 12. I'll show you the steps using this passage, and you can copy them and apply them to a different passage. Let's read the passage first. Now, I want you to know, brothers, that the gospel preached by me is not based on human thought. For I did not receive it from a human source, and I was not taught it, but it came by a revelation from Jesus Christ. Now, this is not one of the most difficult of Paul's writings, so you may follow this just as we read it, but it's a good one to practice and learn the method on. So what's the first step? We want to identify the verbs. They are really helpful for Paul's writings for understanding. So now I want you to know and want are verbs. I want something, that's a verb. And I'm going to underline all the verbs so I can find them easily. Know, I'll underline the word to as well. I'll talk about that later. I want you to know, brothers, that the gospel preached by me is not based on human thought. Now, you may think preached is a verb, but here it's explaining the word gospel. It's actually functioning as an adjective. We've lost a lot of grammar these days, but if you know grammar, you'll realize that's not actually a verb there. The verb is just the word is. That's a verb. Let's keep going. Is not based on human thought. Verse 12. For I did not receive it. Receive is a verb from a human source, and I was not taught it. I was not taught. I was not taught. We'll include all of that if you're not quite sure, but there's the verb in there. That's the idea. But it came by a revelation from Jesus Christ. Came is a verb. Now, if you have trouble, it's okay. Have a go. The more verbs you can identify, the better it is. So we've seen some verbs in there. That's the first step. So have a look at the passage that you've been given and see if you can identify the verbs. Just pause the video and have a go. The second step is to find the conjunctions, the joining words. These are the ideas that show you how one idea, the words that show how one idea joins with the next idea. So they're crucial. And they're nearly always at the beginning of a little group of words, a little clause. So I'm going to highlight this one yellow. It's okay if you're not sure why that's a conjunction. Let's just keep going. Now, I want you to know, brothers, that you can hear that sort of joining what came before and what came afterwards. That the gospel preached by me is not based on human thought, for I did not receive it from a human source, and highlight that one, I was not taught it, but it came by a revelation from Jesus Christ. All those words that join things, and, so that, because, for, those are the conjunctions, and they are really helpful for following Paul's argument. So pause the video again, have a look at your document, the passage you've got, and see if you can highlight all of the conjunctions in there. Now, the third step, we're going to break this up into separate lines. And nearly always we'll be breaking it up before the conjunction because the conjunction introduces the new line. So I'm going to put an enter before that. And then we've got 4 here. It's already gone to a new line. I'll hit enter before the number 12 there just to make sure it breaks up. And let's put a new line there, but. So I've just put each of these little groups on a new line. You'll notice each one has ended up with one verb in it, except the first one's got 2. Why has it ended up with 2? When it says to know, that's actually part of the same idea as want. I want you to know. He wants them to know. So that does belong together. And that will often happen when the word to is before a verb. It goes with the one before it. So we've ended up with 5 sort of ideas. Each one has a single verb in it. Each one begins with a conjunction or something to join it with what went before. So on your document, just pause, put a new line at the beginning of each of these clauses, is what we call them. I've just condensed it up a little bit so we've got some space underneath, and we're going to do the next step, the 4th step. We're going to try to rewrite each of those lines in very simple, clear words. What does each one say? So 111, what's he actually saying there? I want you to know. So we could just put I want you to know, or Paul wants them to know. So I'm going to write that underneath. Paul wants them to know. That's the point there. The second line, that the gospel preached by me is not based on human thought. What's the idea there? The gospel he preaches is not based on human ideas or something like that. The third one, for I did not receive it from a human source. He did not receive it from people. That's the idea. And I was not taught it. Okay, that's understandable as is, so I'm just going to say he was not taught it. Right, so we're just putting each one in simple words to make sure we understand it. The last one, but it came by a revelation from Jesus Christ. That sounds like he's saying Jesus revealed it to him. So I'm going to put it like that. Jesus revealed it to him. So they're the 5 things that he's saying. I've got each clause, we can call it, has got an idea, and these are the 5 ideas. Now, how do these ideas join? That's where the conjunction helps. I'm going to skip the first one because we haven't looked at what was before, but how does the first line join to the second line? It's got the word that. So I'm going to put a space in here. How does that first line join with the second one? Well, when he uses the word that, he's introducing the content of what he wants them to know. So I'm just going to put here, content. What is it that he actually wants them to know? Paul wants them to know what's the content? The gospel he preaches is not based on human ideas. Then what's he say? For I did not receive it from a human source. Now you've got a separate sheet that lists these words and shows you how they're joining the ideas. The word for, if you look at it, means he's going to give a reason. So I'm going to put in here reason. So the gospel he preaches is not based on human ideas. What is the reason? He did not receive it from people. And, so we've just got another idea. I'm just going to put and. So we've just got 2 reasons. And he was not taught it. Then we have but it came by a revelation from Jesus Christ. What's but do? It introduces a contrast, something different. So I'm going to put in here contrast. And that allows us to follow the argument, what Paul is saying. What's he saying? I'll just move it up so you can see it all. Paul wants them to know. What does he want them to know? That the gospel he preaches is not based on human ideas. Now, what's the reason that he can say that? Well, he did not receive it from people and he was not taught it, but on the opposite contrast, it was revealed to him by Jesus. And so those last 3 lines are giving the reason why his gospel is not based on human ideas. And you can see what we've done. That simple process of going through those steps has made the meaning of that passage very clear to us. And so I could now explain that to someone else. I could write a little summary of it. It's clear. I understand the passage. So what you need to do now with your practice passage is to finish all of those steps. So you should end up with a simple little sentence that summarizes what each line means and in brackets words to show how the ideas join.